And another thing I was wanting to get into was another thing is just about the whole truth movement thing. It's been a bit of a debate on the YouTube channels, and I actually got into gold and silver because of, believe it or not, Alex Jones. And it's all about the point I'm trying to make here is about whoever you listen to, whatever books you read, whatever research you do. As you know, you take what you want out of it, and the rest that you don't want to take out of it, you discard it, or you kind of think about it, ponder, and if you want to use that for your knowledge, great. If not, great. So obviously Alex Jones, yes, he is a fearmonger. I'm sure that's how he makes his living. Well, he's when it comes to the 9/11 thing, there's no more advocate for the elite inside job Illuminati than the man himself. Which I probably watched a lot of his stuff back in the day. Like, it's been 10 years, so we don't have to have a 9/11 debate. Everything that could be said has been said, apart from the obvious. But we're going to have to live with that. The mainstream media, governments can just release what they want and then forget about it. Look at, no one's talking about Bin Laden being dead, and as Gerald Celente says, sleeping with the fishies with concrete shoes. So general public are easy to deceive. After a while, they don't ask questions. Look at the BP oil spill. Everyone was up in arms about that. Britain was getting hated on from the Americans, and it was the end of the world now. No one talks about the BP oil spill. It's just the public. Some people tend to forget, and some people don't. But the whole point I'm trying to make about when you do your own research, I got into the whole gold and silver thanks to Alex Jones. He recommended people watch the whole End of America thing, End of America, Porter Stansbury, and then that's how I got into the gold and the silver. I watched the End of America thing, and I read a few articles, looked on his website. I've subscribed to one of his newsletters temporarily. I can't afford to keep going every month, and it made sense to me straight away about the whole gold and silver, the economy, and then I delved more deeper into it, and then I'm 100% behind it. So in terms of Alex Jones, he gets a lot of stick. Obviously, he gets a lot of stick about being a fearmonger and all this and that. But it is little bits of snippets of Alex Jones where it's actually true about what's in the foods, what's in your waters, and he does do a job that way. And then he does obviously over exaggerate a lot, and he did quite rightly so. He does get a lot of stick for that as well. So, but the point I'm trying to make, I'll show an example. You need to be careful. You don't believe everything these guys say, and I'll give you an example here.
Been talking about this, and today we had shootings at IHOPs and at H&R Blocks, and 48 people shot in New York and 2 dead.
Look what's going on in the UK. And you looked at the riots, they call them hooligans and criminals. It's the same thing that's happening around the world. And it's going to happen here in the US. You know my saying, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. So when you see a society where so many young people have no education, they can't get jobs, they're whacked out on drugs that, you know, when I was growing up, nobody ever dreamed of, you think you're going to see a lot more violence, and the response is going to be, we got to crack down on crime. So the worse crime becomes, the harder they're going to crack down on us. They'll use it just as the UK, just as the United States used 9/11 to rape us of constitutional rights. The UK is using that over there. The example that happened in Rotterdam, whatever the place was, to crack down on civil liberties. So that's where we're going. It's only going to get much worse. And you were talking about John Williams Shadow's stats, the Great Depression. Look at housing. How many times did they say that the real estate market was turning around? It's worse. It's worse than it was during the Great Depression. And it's only going to get worse.
Now, Gerald Celente there, he's good. I like Gerald Celente. And he talks about just look at what's going on in the UK. Yes, I've done videos in the UK, and economy-wise, job-wise, things aren't great. But when he's talking about the riots, yeah, the riots were very, very bad, and they're predominantly, well, we say the UK, but it was actually all in England. There wasn't any riots in Scotland, or Wales, or Northern Ireland, none at all whatsoever. And I actually live in London, and the riots were shocking. What happened? It's easy to forget. Well, it was quite disgusting. I didn't agree with the riots. People's life work just getting burnt to the ground within minutes, and people looting and violence, and there was a couple, I think it was two or three deaths, maybe 3 or 4, I'm not sure, but there was deaths. But I think the rioting Gerald Celente's talking about is, I think he's comparing it to the riots that's going on in Greece and what you're going to kind of see happening in Italy. And it's completely different. It was completely different reasons for the riots, how they started in the UK. Let's get this right. It was poor, deprived people. Well, not even poor, I would say. The riots actually circulated through these things. I don't know if you can see that. Blackberries. So they're actually organised on smartphones. You can't be that poor if you can afford to have a smartphone. So yes, people were underprivileged, and it was in the poorer areas that the riots were going on, but it wasn't for the reason I think Gerald Celente is talking about. As I said, he's comparing it to the middle classes and stuff, and austerity in Greece and other parts of Europe. But the riots in the UK actually were triggered off by police officers killing a man. They shot at an unarmed man. There was a protest outside the police station in London, Tottenham. By the way, London's a very, very big place. There was a protest in a section at one of the police stations, and it just basically, it started with the family and friends, and obviously the local community wanting answers. Big crowds gathered, and obviously one thing led to another, and there was riots in a place called Tottenham. They started burning buses, and they got the riot police in, and as ever, when human beings are confronted by riot police, they seem to get aggressive and get violent. And then that led to big crowds swelling and looting, fighting with the police. And then it became, from a protest from the police shooting an unarmed man and killing him, to an opportunity for people to basically get as much as they can for free. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people came from deprived, well, not saying deprived, but they were lesser fortunate or not as well off as rich people, and they seen an excuse to get free stuff. They weren't poor, they weren't starving to death, these people. They had food, they had smartphones, and they just seen an opportunity to get free things, 3D televisions, phones, anything you name it, clothes, trainers. And to a point, Gerald Celente's got got a point. And, I wouldn't say they didn't lose anything, but people, they just absolutely lost it without actually losing everything. They lost it in London, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Liverpool, Leeds. Riots happened, and remember, these riots circulated through, it wasn't social networking like Facebook and things like that. It was actually the BlackBerry, because there's anyone that's familiar with Blackberries, there's a thing called BBM, BlackBerry Messenger, and that's the only thing police can't detect. They can detect things through Facebook and all that on the internet and iPhones and other social networking sites, but they can't pick up anything from BlackBerry Messenger. So youngsters were able to organise and send broadcast messages to all their friends about meeting up places, and that is how the riots happened. But it's not. It's nothing to do. It's going to be a whole different ball game, and I think there will be trouble in the UK when the middle classes start rioting, which is going to be a completely different issue to opportunist idiots, to be honest, who thought they'd riot to get three things. But it's going to be different when there's a major currency crisis, and people can't afford food, and that's when you're going to see not only the poor but the middle classes rioting, because when the money they thought they had in the bank is now worthless. And I think money in the bank is worthless. And one thing I was a little bit jealous of the rioters, there was lots and lots of jewellery stores getting robbed. I shouldn't say I was jealous, but there's a lot of gold that was stolen from jewellery stores. So the thing is, half the kids that stole the jewellery won't know what half of it's worth. Gold bullion and gold watches and things like that, and 24 carat chains. They'll probably just sell like a. They probably. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the kids chucked away some of the gold coins or sold them for like a tenner or something, not knowing they're worth like £1,000, British pounds that is. But it's going to be a whole different ballgame when the middle classes can't afford food. You're going to see the riots which Gerald Celente is talking about. The riots that he's saying in the UK is a bit premature. If his point he makes is when people lose everything, they lose it. Well, in the riots in the UK, people hadn't lost everything; they had plenty. You'd watch some of the programmes that are on in the UK after the riots. You see the police going into these people's houses, and they weren't starving. They had food, they had clothes, but they seen an opportunity. So it's going to take a pinch of salt. Take it with a pinch of salt what he's saying about the riots in the UK, because the austerity riots in the UK haven't happened yet. There's not been people protesting in the streets en masse about spending cuts and extending the retirement age, reducing minimum wage. There hasn't been them riots whatsoever in the UK. And London's very peaceful, because I actually live in London, and I don't watch my back from crazy rioters. It's fine. That was just an opportunity that's gone, but it will get. The riots Gerald Celente is talking about, they will happen in the UK in future, very soon, when people's savings and pensions disappear. But the riots that he's talking about now, look at the UK. Yes, London is probably it's got the most surveillance cameras in square footage to anywhere in the world. Yes, all them things are correct. You're watched everywhere you go. That's correct. I'm not disputing that, but just the actual point he keeps, because I've heard him a few times saying, just look at the UK, and believe me, the middle class riots or the austerity riots haven't started yet. So, as I say, the point before was when the media, even the truth movement, make points, just take it with a pinch of salt, take what you can out of it, and never stop learning.